Welcome to the TebZAR podcast, the show where we have real conversations that matter. Today's topic is one that touches many families, raising daughters. I'm so excited because joining us today is Walter Mbatha, a proud father who's raising two daughters. Walter will be sharing his journey with us, the joys, the challenges, the lessons, and the values he hopes to pass on. Whether you're a parent planning to be one or simply curious about the role fathers play in shaping young girls' lives, this conversation is going to be powerful and eye-opening. Welcome, Walter.
Excited,
How are you doing?
I'm good, my guy.
Thank you, my brother.
Yeah.
Thank you. How are you feeling today?
Very excited, boy. A little bit anxious, you know.
Why?
Putting me into a deep end, my guy, and like you said, the topic today that covers fatherhood, right? And it's a concept that I don't think even us have perfected. Mm-hmm. So anxious because sometimes we don't have all the answers, mm-hmm. right? Yeah, and I think I would be also, before we continue, I'll be doing an injustice by not necessarily introducing my invisible entourage, right?
Yeah.
Properly, my name is Mbatha. Ushandu kandaba umthiya othiya ngenkomo abafokazana bethiya ngamahlahla usontshikazi ngangobani ngoba ngisho entendeni esandla yanela ugumbi lamagwala lensizwa ephambi kwenu izalwa uEphraim Mbatha ushafuza kwelengane ngoba lo mdalo lesabane. I was raised by a Zulu dad and a Tsonga mom. Mm-hmm. So yeah, both of whom are late. That's very important to include in a part of my introduction.
It is. Yeah. Absolutely. And as you say that, you know, I could feel the whole heritage come through. You know, it's good, Walter, that we acknowledge our ancestors, because a lot of who we ultimately are, you know, is cumulative experiences from our ancestors. And it's a very nice way to introduce yourself. I like that. I hope maybe someday in the future also, you know, we also do that to all of us. Yeah, but anyway, Walter, you know, we met dropping our kids at school. You know, we have two daughters who happen to be in the same, you know, classes. And we got, you know, to see each other quite a lot, you know, at the drop area, but also attending academic awards and a lot of the sporting awards as well. And this is where I actually said, hey, I think this chap is doing a good job. You know, maybe he's the right person to speak to. So, yes, you are being thrown in the deep end, but I know you can definitely swim your way out of it. This conversation we're having today, it's a conversation that us as guys, we hardly intentionally talk about, because sport, politics, you know, all that comes very easy to us. You know? But this discussion, it's a sensitive one, and it's one that doesn't come, you know, easy for us guys. So, I mean, let's explore it. Nothing is perfect. I think we'll share from a good intention our experiences. And we hope that, you know, people listening can maybe pick 2 things or 3 things that will make their life better. Your background, you know, just tell us about yourself.
As I've mentioned, I'm a son, firstborn son of Ephraim Mbatha and Mavis Mabasa. And it's important to mention that I'm a hybrid. I like to call myself a hybrid because I'm a Zulu from a father's side and a Tsonga, my mom's side.
First time I've heard that.
Yeah, no. I always make a joke, you know, saying I'm a Zulu waist up and a Tsonga waist down. But anyway. I was born and raised in Tembisa, which is the east of Gauteng, in the East Rand, the seat of Ekurhuleni. However, my upbringing was not predominantly Tembisa in terms of a township upbringing. I had a great influence from Thokoza influence because this is where all my cousins reside, and during school holidays, I needed to visit them. So I spent most of my school holidays as a kid at Thokoza. You'll find that I have a great network of friends at Thokoza than I do at Tembisa. But Tembisa, this is where mom and dad was residing predominantly. So yeah, started my school in Ndulweni Primary School in Tembisa. I was fortunate and blessed to have an uncle that was pro-education, if I were to put it that way, right? I think financially, both my parents were unable to really take me to what we previously called multiracial school. I think post-1994, when black kids now could access sort of multiracial education and private education, my uncle at that time was a taxi owner running taxis at the shuttle services airport. And I was like, no, man, this boy is smart. Maybe let's find him a school, a town. And so I did my high school in Nokem Park, which is in Kempton Park, Epeshley. But post that, I think then my uncle passed, I think, when I was pretty much just completing my matric, which I think from a fatherly role at my early stage, he played a very significant part in my life. And predominantly, and this is one of the things that I wanted to highlight outside of, we're talking fatherhood, but there is also a very great role that uncles play, especially in black families, right? And especially if a kid is a product out of wedlock, right? Which I was. When I was born, my mom and dad were not married. They got married after that. So part of my upbringing, I grew up at my mom's place. And my uncle was the father figure then, because at that stage, I did not have a close relationship with my dad.
But your parents were young at the time.
But my parents were young, yes. They were very young. My mom was 19, I think, when she gave birth to me. So that part as well, that role that my uncle played, was a very influential part of the man that I somehow become. I would like to think that. And because he was exposed from a industry perspective and from a bit of financial capability to award me at that time opportunities to say, "Ay, lo mfana lo, maybe let's take him out of the township school and let's find," because, yeah. And part of the reason he will always mention, the reason your name is Uspiwe, and I would like to say Uspiwe is because you are a gift that somehow would bless this family one day. So it's one of the responsibility that I walk around carrying on my shoulder, and I carry it as an identity as well. So yeah, raised in Tembisa, went to Nokem High School. Then, cut a long story, I was fortunate to get to go to vets, tertiary education. Speaking about that's also a very interesting part of my life because, like I said, uncle lost a job, passed away, and at that point in time when I had to go to tertiary, both my mom and my dad financially could not necessarily, and that's a common story for every single black child that grew up at Kasi. And I started selling Boeravos roll at Bramfontein. I was the guy that to raise my first registration money to go to vets.
You know that time that these Boeravos rolls, they were this long.
Yeah.
And they would sell for like 8 rand,
Yeah.
6 rand.
6 rand, yeah.
You know, I only found out on holiday in Mpumalanga that, some of the farms there, when the horses pass away, they don't necessarily, dig up and, they take those horses to the butchery and they ship them to Joburg. So I've had this theory, only after that holiday, that maybe those boerewors were horse meat.
Yeah.
That we were having, because it makes sense.
It makes
So
sense.
boerewors that big for 6 rand.
6 rand, yeah. So that's how I raised my tertiary tuition. I think my entrepreneurial skills were developed from that stage where I knew that, and I left home when I was 17. I only returned home, not fully returned home, but I only came back home when I was 24, when I was coming to fetch my parents to come to my graduation.
Sure.
Right. So that gap from 17 to 24, I needed to figure out a life by myself. I needed to learn what you call a hustle, acquire certain skills, certain survival skills, take yourself through varsity. I know at some stage that my dad used to say, when we're in Zandla Petros, I'll take you some drugs. It's like, ain't you a drug dealer of some sort? And he wasn't wrong, because I ended up being a pharmacist, right?
He was prophesying.
He was prophesying, So yeah, I did. I'm a pharmacist by profession. Great deal of expertise in pharmaceutical manufacturing, product development. At some stage of my life, I was based in Belgium, running one of the multinet companies to run sub-Saharan Africa for product development and supply in terms of pharmaceutical space, and I only came back full-time in South Africa, I think 2019, to run a biotech startup company. So now I am a CEO of a company called 3Sixty Biopharmaceutical, but I wear different hats as a CEO and as a responsible pharmacist. And I also have running a manufacturing herbal medicine plant in Pietermaritzburg called 3Sixty Herbal Health. Yeah, so.
And what products do you produce there?
In Pietermaritzburg, we produce mainly herbal tonics, herbal medicine for different indications, from kidney and bladder, hemorrhoids, blood pressure, sugar diabetes, erectile dysfunction for men. If you know the product Umvusankonze, it's one of the products that we do. And then we do a personal care range, which ranges from your Aqueous cream, your dermatological cream, your eczema cream, soaps as well, hair product for women, for cosmetics and children. Yeah, it's a complete range of basket that we produce.
Yeah, it's not every day that you meet a CEO who's in the pharmaceutical space. I think kudos to you. It's not easy being a CEO.
Yeah.
It's very demanding.
Extremely
demanding. The demands of your job. How do you think at times they compromise time spent with family?
To be honest, I think time spent with family, it's compromised extremely a compromise, and it's a continuous battle to try to have a work-life balance. However, it also helps if you have a super efficient co-pilot in this parenting and family structure.
Yeah.
If you've got a solid partner,
You can fly on autopilot.
yeah, you know what I mean? 100%. But yeah, I would say time spent is extremely compromised, but it's one of those difficult decisions that I think as dads, maybe not necessarily as dads, but as parents, either or, because I do believe that even single mom also experience it, right? In terms of the need to provide for your kids financially, but also the need to be there for them, for their emotional upbringing, and understanding that you cannot also be at both places at once, and one must take precedence. I think that's a most difficult thing as parents that we need to deal with, and especially as middle class parents, because 90% of us, we are only a salary away from poverty, but yet we are exposed to this life that we want to create for our kids and want to give our kids, right? There is that extreme financial pressure of providing, and that takes away time from family. But of course, you do find that you need to create, and you need to be intentional about creating time that you spend with family. You need to create time to be there for those sporting activities, extramural activities. You need to create that pocket of time where you like that cuddling moment in the couch, getting to listen to the stories, getting to understand what they're going through emotionally from, and how they actually see and experience life. Because how they see and experience life, it's completely different than how I could have probably assumed that they, as kids, or because it's also easy for us as parents to think they're just kids, man. And we prioritize our own needs and forgetting that they are human and individual in their own rights, and they experience the world very differently. And you still need to be available to cater to that.
Yeah. I see the big thing now is, they say being present is also not enough.
Yeah.
You have to be engaged.
Exactly.
When you were there. And as parents, easily you run low on energy because you've had hectic couple of weeks because of work. So being present, but being able to engage, that's the extra mile that we also need to take. How do you make sure cognitively, even when you realize that, I'm tired, I'm exhausted, I need to pitch up for my kids?
All right. I think this, maybe I would say, the basis is it's literally a principle that I shared with everything that I do in life. One thing, I'm not a perfectionist. That's one thing. I'm very forgiving of myself, right? I'm very forgiving and I'm very understanding of my handicaps. So I know that I can't be perfect. So I don't necessarily strive to be perfect. And what then that does is that it takes away the need for me to control the outcome of a process. But it allows me an opportunity to then enjoy the process without knowing what the outcome would be, but going through this journey to say, this moment, it's what matters. And one thing though, I must say, my mom's passing taught me a very important lesson, that sometimes there are no moments that exist beyond the current moment that you currently have, right? So being present and understanding that you have to go through the process without worrying about how the outcome would look like, then you are okay in making mistakes at this moment, but you are actually living this moment. And they experiencing, whoever that you share the moment with, they experiencing the authentic version of you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because one of the things is a lot of people have experienced, parents that were there, but they felt like the parents were not there while they were there.
Yes.
And as you know, with parents, once you sit with a child, and you always have your parent hat, and your child always has a child hat, it's very difficult to get through to a person because the hierarchy barrier is just always there.
Yeah.
But when you let loose and you just forget that, I'm a human and I need to enjoy the space with my daughter,
Yes.
it just helps the process flow a lot better.
100%. 100%. I once read something very interesting. And that's why I said sometimes parents, like I said initially when we were having a casual conversation, that from your lenses, you might look at this guy and it's like, hey, this guy has got this fatherhood thing
Figured out.
He's got it figured out. While in the interim, I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm just, I'm just second guessing. I was like, at some stage, I was telling my firstborn son, when I said, hey, listen, boy, before you came, I have no idea how it's like to be a dad. I also don't know how to be a dad.
You told him that?
Yeah, I don't know how to be a dad. This is my first time doing
and
this.
what was his response?
Okay? No, but he
Must have looked at you, this guy's
like,
crazy.
It was this guy. I'm like, hey, you must understand that. You must understand that you also might try and error. Like I'm trying this thing because I don't know how to be a dad. I'm also gonna make mistakes. And but if there's one of the greatest gifts that we can give our kids, right, is it's actually allowing our kids see us fail. Right? Most of the time we're trying not to fail in front of our kids. And what that does, is that it teaches them not to be human. It teaches them that it's then wrong to be human. Right? And that's why I said initially, I'm very forgiving of myself. I'm very forgiving of my mistakes. But with that said, is that I'm not giving myself a permission to make mistakes, right? I need to learn, I need to atone from those mistakes, and I need to grow from them. It's also important because I'm also growing as an individual. I'm also learning every day, and I'm also figuring things out as I go. I once read something very interesting. This gentleman was saying, when you have kids, there's 3 phases at which your children go through, right, in relation to you. The first one is that when they're young, is they glorify you. I mean, you are their superhero. Trust me, it feels good to be a superhero, right? I mean, the entire world revolves
Around you.
Around you. You are there to nature, to take care, to protect, to provide, to do all those nice things. And literally, the person that they idolize, that they want to be, is actually you. You are the point of reference, right? And then they grow up. They assume their own identity, their own character, their own, and then they start seeing as well your flaws as a person, and then they start to demonize you. That's the second phase, because you must understand that you also as an individual, probably by the time you had your first kid, for example, I'm speaking for myself, from my experience, I was 25 when I had my first kid, right? Come on, 25, I'm still a kid. Myself. I did.
Well, you've done well compared to your parents.
Yeah. That means that I still have a lot of growing to do as well. So it means in the process of being a father, a family man, I'm still gonna make mistakes along the way. And some of those mistakes, your kids will get to experience those mistakes as well. And then they start to say, no, this guy is not the superhero that we thought he was.
Yeah, they get critical.
Now they're becoming critical, Now they're starting to also becoming hard at your mistakes. And unfortunately for most people, that season that happens, it sometimes happens as a result of a conflict that exists between both parents, right?
Yes.
Because that has a bearing effect as well on how the kids experience the world, and how now they start developing their own anxiety because they see these 2 guys that brought us into this world that now are not seeing eye to eye. Because now it's normal, and it's normal for couples to have conflict. But to create an environment, then you say, do we shield our kids from these conflicts or not? Because it will influence as well how they respond to life, But later on in life, they also start making their own mistakes, because now they're starting to enter into this framework of adulthood. But adulting, like now they start assuming certain responsibilities in life, making mistakes, and then this is when they realize, they say, actually, you know what? parents were not that bad. They were simply just being human with mistakes, with flaws.
So it's like coming full circle.
It's coming full circle, right? And I am not yet there at that full circle, the last part of it, but I am consciously aware of it so that I can also have patience with myself to say, I cannot necessarily control the outcome, but I can influence the current moment and let me then be present in this moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's power in just being,
Yes.
you know, and not doing all the time.
Yeah.
You know, and one of the things is with high achievers, they obviously find comfort and expression in doing. So wake up today, 6 things to do. If they've done all 6, then their happiest moments, they're happy. But there's power in just being.
And just being, yeah.
You know, I spoke about fishing in one of the podcasts. My dad used to take me fishing, and in fishing, you just have to be.
Be, yeah.
You know, today, years later, all you remember was fishing.
Fishing.
But why was that such an empowering moment? And why does it keep rolling back into your head? It's because there's power in just being. And not delivering all the time.
Yeah.
So I really understand when you say, you know, there's no perfection in that moment, because that's not the basis of engagement. There's no perfection. You simply have to, just know in your heart that just you being there, spending time with the small things, that's all it takes. It's not rocket science.
It's not rocket science, you know, and acknowledge the fact, like I said, acknowledge the fact that they, by themselves, they are independent individuals with the capacity to decide and to think. They're conscious human being and relate to them as such, right? And I know it's not easy as a parent to give off control and to just let your kids be, because you also want to control the behavior with that. Because there are a lot of hats that there are times where you're trying to be too friendly, but there are times where you just have to be a dad and instill discipline. Because all of those things are very important, right? So yeah, that's why I said initially there's no formula, right, into this thing, but it's acknowledging what it requires you at that specific moment. So there's a time where I need to have a shoulder-to-shoulder relationship with my kids. And also because, I mean, their needs as well. I mean, when you talk about girls, and I don't want to generalize for the fear of getting in trouble, it's that dealing with an opposite sex and female species, it's complex. It's very complex. You need to understand how much patience one needs as a man to understand. So can you imagine being in a household with 3 women which go through their own different emotions, and you still need to have a capacity to cater to them individually.
Yeah.
Right? And understand that, I mean,
because they're different. It's different characters, personalities.
And so that's why I said, I keep on telling that I've got 3 kids, and I'm a first-time dad to all of you guys. I'm a first-time dad to all of you guys because I don't know how to raise you. I need to also go through a process of learning how to raise you. I need to understand your character, and their emotional need is also completely different, right? I've got for example, I said, I've got a son that when I start to raise my voice, he listens. And I can be firm. I can be firm, that masculinity does come in to say, hey, boy. And then he knows that, no, dad has spoken. Try to do that with a girl. Good luck. So I've got good luck, yeah. I've got a very highly opinionated, at first it used to frustrate me because I mean, I grew up in an environment where you don't answer an adult. When an adult speaks, you keep quiet. You mustn't express your opinion. You do as you're being told. And that has an influence as well on your parenting style, right? To say at some point I need to be firm. My word is my word, and it's final. And you know what I mean. And then you realize that no, it's not working with them. And then they start asking questions like why. The why question is a very scary question because 9 out of 10 times we don't have the answers to the why.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or we can't articulate at that moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you can't have just because daddy says so. Just because daddy says so is not an answer.
And it doesn't fly nowadays.
Yeah, it doesn't fly nowadays. Now it stimulates an opportunity for conversation, right? And then once you start having those conversations, some of your anxieties and worries start being addressed. One of the greatest anxieties I think that we have as fathers raising daughters is when they start dating, right? But that conversation must be had, boy, because it is eventually going to happen.
Yeah.
Right. And you cannot just box it to just rules that they need to comply to, because they will challenge you, right? And actually, it's part of the opportunity that I'm enjoying as well, because then it also gives you an opportunity to grow. They will challenge you. They're very opinionated, and sometimes, if there's one thing that I've learned about raising daughters is that not everything have to be logical, right? And it's not necessarily important for me to have a logical answer for an emotional need. Right? It doesn't have to make sense, and it's okay for it not making sense.
Yeah. But that's difficult to accept.
It's very difficult.
Because logic is like our guiding force, literally.
Yeah, logic it is our guiding force, but logic is not necessarily the answer all the time.
All the time. In 20 years' time, if you look at your family, what is it that you wish your daughters would say about you? 20 years' time.
A very interesting question. Because I always say, what is it that I want them to say about me now? Because I think the now matters than 20 years later. It's how they experience me now. That's much more important to me. So I always say, sometimes with all my flaws, I look at myself in the mirror, right? And I say, am I the guy that I want my daughters to date? Sometimes I'm like, am I modeling that right?
In the way you relate to their mother.
In the way I relate to their mother, in how I model manhood around them, and rather how I model what I believe manhood to be, because you must believe also sometimes manhood becomes we are indoctrinated to believe that a man must do certain or fulfill certain roles, right? Which they're not entirely wrong, because it's an automatic response to have a progression in terms of how we progress as human, to occupy certain functions and roles. And then that influence how we raise them. I believe I spoil my daughters. I'm not sure if it's a good thing or a bad thing, but it has always been a need to say, you know what, it always feels good when they know that daddy will make it happen, right? And it's an ego thing, right? It does rub up my ego when my daughter wants something and says, no, don't worry. Daddy's take care of it. I'm like, yes, you're right, baby girl. Daddy's taking care of it.
And they don't have to get it from the street. So.
They don't have to get it from the street, right? But however, you must also be conscious with what sort of, what is it that you're modeling for them, right? Because in the same token, the great thing that you're trying to do for them might have a negative impact in how they would experience life later.
With unrealistic expectations.
With unrealistic expectation, right? Do I say I want my daughter now to go out there and face life and say, I'm looking for a partner that XX because daddy used to? No. Indirectly, I'm teaching them to be independent, to be self-sufficient, to, and never to look for that particular resource in a man. But I'm also doing the opposite in terms of providing that as well, and making them accustomed to it, right? Where raising my son, it's completely different. Making an example is that all my kids on a monthly basis, they have their own allowance, trying to teach them financial literacy and how to manage their, and to be fair, all of them, I give them the same amount of budget to say, okay, so now you've got 3 kids that they getting, for exemplary purposes, they getting 100 Rand a month that they see how to manage it for the month, right? But there are moments where they would go out and I'm not there. I travel quite frequently for work purposes. So you'll find that I'm not around, but my son is there with his 2 siblings, which are girls, and they went out for an ice cream or whatnot. And some they say, Daddy, we need money too. I says, no, let your brother take care of it. And now the brother is getting accustomed to say, I'm a man, I'll handle it.
Yeah.
At first, he used to worry, says that, no, but Dad, they have 100 Rand, I have 100 Rand. Why must I use my money? Why must I use my money? I'm like, boy, that's part of the process of being a man.
Yeah, that's how the world works.
That's how the world works. You need to learn how to take off the bill, right? You're teaching them in that environment. It says, no, but 100 Rand is not enough. I'm like, okay, then if 100 Rand is not enough, what are you then willing to do for the extra 100 Rand? Now start working for it.
Nothing comes free in life. Except the 100 Rand.
Except that nothing comes free. So yeah, it's a give and take. Like I say, there is no formula. There is one thing that we're trying to teach and portray, but also there is an outcome that could come as a result of what you were teaching that is not a favorable outcome. Right. We have a duty that we feel we are obligated to have, and unfortunately, we cannot always be there to protect our kids and how they would experience the world. But we try our best to actually prepare them for it, right? And that goes to relations with how they would create friends, they would create partners, they would create life, because that's how they would experience. Because then that world is like, how do I then de-risk it a bit so that at least they have essential skills to sustain themselves in that environment. Yeah.
So I really like, the parts about the intentional teaching. Because I think a lot of us as parents, we leave the teaching to the teacher.
Yeah.
And when you think about it, the classroom, these teachers are burdened. There's no way your teachers can really, really teach your children about life. Maybe technical skills.
Yeah.
And what you're doing by actually putting your son on the spot, you're helping him out. Because future in life, you definitely have to sit with 100 Rand, and the needs exceed the 100 Rand. And you don't want to do that the first time you're an adult, because it will go south easily. So this intentional teaching is very important. exposure also, the role of exposure in helping our kids, navigate the world, see the world and the opportunity. Are there things that you feel that you have deliberately exposed your children to, with the intention to teach and not just depend on the teachers for teaching?
Yes. And it's very important to reflect with gratitude, in a sense that we are blessed. Right? The fact that we have this opportunity to sit like this and have this conversation, we are extremely blessed. Yes, our history and background in terms of where we come from, we came from struggle. We've managed to make something of ourselves, and also not all credit to our capabilities. Sometimes it's just purely by grace that we find ourselves in this position. What I'm trying to say with that is that I've been blessed to expose my kids to an opulent lifestyle, right? However, sensitizing them as well to say there is a room of lack that exists in the world. And to say, and like I said, we influence and shape the environment, right? And also because that will also then feed into their identity on how they become in that environment. To say, listen, just because you have this lifestyle as an average lifestyle, that is not an average lifestyle of a South African, right? Expose them as well to that environment, yasekas, yaselokishini. So it's important for me, Oguti, when it's school holidays, we this time around we're not doing Mauritius, you're going to Gogo's house.
Yeah.
eThekwini.
Odlamas.
Uyodlamas.
Yeah.
Uhlale and interact with your cousins, interact with the environment, experience that environment, because the environment that you are currently living in, you might shape your thinking that is how the world is, but that's not necessarily how the world is, right? So it's a balancing act. So with that, what I'm doing is I'm exposing them to opulence for them to allow them to dream beyond their limitation of their dreams, right? Because that's what exposure does. Exposure allows you to dream big, and I want them to have those ambitious, big dreams. To see, I used to have this saying. One of my friends actually laugh at it when I mentioned this. At some point, I used to travel quite significantly, and I used to have a saying, "With time, manumhlaba ikaslam." So literally saying, the globe, it's my hood.
Yeah, it's my hood.
And with that said, is literally what I was saying is that the ability to see the world and its potential that exists in it, live in it, but never lose sight of also the reality that exists, because that reality that exists sensitizes you to gratitude, right? You must understand, and also telling them that what you have and what you are exposed to, it's a privilege, right? It's not a right. You are not necessarily say there's something that you did to be deserving of this lifestyle. You so happen to be positioned in life where you have access to it through grace and blessings, and you need to show gratitude to that. So yeah.
And that constant reminder is important, because what we've seen growing up is guys, for some reason, if they come from an affluent family, they tend to go wayward.
Yeah.
Contrast that to ladies. Ladies can come from an affluent family, but still not go off the rails. So I think that reminder to say, you know what, you need to go to KZN, no hlala no gogo. And those moments are so important because that exposure, Gogo will talk about you and your wife in a way that you can't talk to your kids. And that's where the lessons will literally come through. But it's important to say, you know what, this is not normal in the context of South Africa. Maybe by global standards, it is, but certainly not in the context. And it's not a right, because you don't want your daughter dating a poor guy and all of a sudden they expect the same, flowering of gifts, from that, because that won't work well for them in their relationships.
No, 100%. And also there's this great friend of mine, because there was one thing that I was also battling with, as you say, in terms of the environment at which we raise our kids. Tina, we know, Uguti, it was a necessity for us to be street smart when growing up a Lukshin. It was a necessity, it was a life skill that I need to be able to handle myself when I'm in the streets. I need to fit in with the guys. I need to have this, this image of masculinity, and not have the soft cheese boy type of image. Because then you
usually get bullied.
You get bullied. You get bullied. It was a necessity and a survival skill, right? But growing up, you're like, okay, when we're raising kids, I'm like, no, man, I want my kids to also be hybrids like I am, to be able to survive on both worlds. When mang sekasi, mang semakaya, ngiba indoda yomZulu nje phelele futhi. You know what I mean? Yeah. And when I'm in the boardroom, yes, I still become that boardroom Kuluva. You know what I mean? And you need to be able to exist in all of these worlds. And my warriors always say, would my kids have that skill? Would they have the ability to switch and be hybrids, that they can exist in all of these environments
and navigate easily?
And this other friend of mine told me something very profound. And he says, boy, why are you working so hard? Is to give your kids a certain life.
That's the only reason, really.
And so prepare them for the life you're planning to give them, not the life you are trying to take them away from.
That's deep. That is deep, deep, deep.
Very deep.
That is deep. We'd like to play now a clip where we wanted perspective from ladies who grew up with present dads, and how that has rolled up into their lives. It's interesting because if you are a child and you grew up in a house, you don't know what you have, because you don't know what's out there in the world. But a lot of kids will start seeing in class, when it's academic awards, so-and-so's, dad is not there. The affection from the present dads to their kids, it starts hitting home. And one of the responsibilities we have as guys in society is to encourage guys irrespective of their resources. Because a lot of guys feel it's difficult to pitch up for my daughters. I just don't have the money. The demands are just way beyond my means. To navigate, past that, because, presence, you might be there on the day, but not be able to buy anything after. Your child's not going to remember that you did not buy them a Coke after the awards function, all they remember is you were
Right
there
there.
at that point in time. So yeah, we'll just cross over to listen to a couple of voice notes about present dads and how that is translated into their lives.
Having a present dad in my life that I've had the privilege to live in the same house with and grow up around has helped to give me exposure and perspective on how a man's role can look like in my life. Um, I've had the privilege of growing up with both my mom and my dad, so I've been able to see the ways that my mom thinks and the roles that she plays within the household because my household is a traditional one. But I've also been able to see the role that a man can embody. Someone like my dad has always been handy around the house. He's a big lover of gardening, so he's always been that. But he's also been a strict and very necessary guide into how we should be street smart and how we should navigate this world so that we are protected as girls, but just so we're protected as humans and not taken advantage of when it comes to money, when it comes to deals that we make in life, when it comes to friends that we have in life. So having that male's perspective has been very helpful and has sort of become a reference point for what I would like to look for in a male.
And
That's very
yeah,
interesting.
very, very, very powerful
Yeah.
because she literally feels like, this is what I've had and it's helped, fortify my perspective
Yeah.
of what I should look for and what I should look out for
Four. Yeah.
as I navigate.
And she touched a little bit on spirituality as well, in terms of who the dad was, from being a God-fearing man, and how she got to then experience him. So I found that was very interesting, because there's also that responsibility that we have as father to say, how do we then model the concept of spirituality around our kids? And it's a very, very pertinent and an interesting component.
That deserves a podcast on its own.
Oh, exactly. That deserves a podcast on its own. But yeah.
Nice. Next.
Present dads. Oh wow. I genuinely think this is one of the latest buzzwords that as much as I get the gist of it, I do not fully comprehend the limitations of the term. And because of that, I'm going to move a little bit away from the term and rather speak about my dad. So, my dad is an amazing and loving father who has always identified the needs of our family. Growing up, I have witnessed my father being a provider, protector, and a man who brings structure into our home. And now going down memory lane, and there's just so many fond memories. But I'll land it on this. My dad was the very best for me. He thinks very highly of me. And you know what? I genuinely believe that a father is a girl's first love. He sets the tone for what you tolerate and what you expect from a man, especially in a romantic relationship.
Very interesting. I think there's also another. I think maybe dive deep in understanding what it means to be a present dad. Is it a presence physically? Or is it an emotional presence, or it encompasses a little bit of everything? I mean, we've spoken about work-life balance, and the nature of the work that we do that sometimes takes away a lot of time, from our family, would then your kids experience you as a present dad if you've been to, say, 2 of the hockey matches over 10? Or they would still experience you as an absent dad, even if you're in the same household. Simply because.
You there?
Yes.
But maybe not emotionally available.
Maybe not emotionally available.
Yeah. You know, time. Time is the most valuable commodity.
Yes.
And it should be spent with the most valuable people in your life. Now that's one of the balancing acts that we have to get right, because it's one thing to build a career, spend your time at the office. By the time you're ready to come back, the kids are going to varsity. You're hardly going to see them again. You'll have lost a lot of time in that process. So I think being cognizant that time is your biggest gift. When you look at the calendar, see the calendar as a bank book, and to say, this time here,
This time.
yeah, I'm going to share it with the most valuable people in my life. I think that's the biggest contribution that we can do to our daughters, because when we do that, they will actually even understand the human and their flaws.
And their flaws, yes.
Yeah, and you will have quite a very forgiving relationship going forward. Yeah. Walter, thanks for coming. Anything you'd like to say in closing?
Thank you for the opportunity for having me. But really, if there's one thing that I would share with dads out there, right? It's try to drop off the desire for perfection, fundamentally, and realizing that there is no formula to this thing. However, be intentional about what you're doing. Be conscious of moments. Be present in the process. Understand the process, and be willing to make mistakes and learn from those mistakes. And understand that you are raising independent thinking individuals. Engage them as such. Right? And yes, indeed, you have the environment that you create has a far better impact on who they become more than your teachings. Try to always consciously influence the environment. Yeah.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
My brother, Nyabongama, thank you.
Thank you.
This is a conversation as men we generally don't have, but I think we also need to be cognizant of the conversations we need to have. So it's a conversation at times that can feel like we're out of our comfort spaces, but I think the true mark of a man is to deal with vulnerability.
Yep.
And to be able to look himself in the mirror and say, you know what, I'm doing a good job, I made mistakes, I forgive myself. Let me try over again.
Yes.
Thank you. Thanks for watching. Cheers. Bye.
TebZAR.